Welcome back to History of Fleetwood Mac. I'm Anita. Today we're going to actually wrap up volume 17 with episode 21 of my Fleetwood Mac and Stevie Nicks scrapbooks. And this is just a little odds and ends part of 2005, wrapping up 2005 before we get into some other stuff. And in fact, it is indeed odds and ends. When I was looking through it, I kind of should have just put it in with other videos, so I do apologize for kind of extending this volume or this year out a little bit more. I'm going to start with some stuff that had been in if you looked at the video of my articles, magazine articles and such, this was a magazine article from, I want to say it was WW, but it's something like World Woman or something like that. I think this came out in two magazines. I think there was a USA release, and I think this might have been an Australian release. I could be wrong, but it seems to me it's the same exact thing, same article, same pictures, everything. Stevie is not on the cover of either magazine. It's just an article inside. Again, I could be wrong. Maybe it was just only the US one, but I don't know why this one seems like it was from Australia. I think it's because everything that was with it, some friends had sent me some stuff from Australia for 2005 and 2006. So I think that's maybe what I'm thinking. But it's still nice to have the photos in the scrapbook because they are really pretty photos. And also if going through all these videos I've made, I've just felt, again, when I keep talking about the redundancy of the concert photos, I'm not picking on my photos or anybody else's for that matter. I will pick on my photos because they are not the best. But what I mean is they're just, really from, I don't know, even 2003, 2004, there wasn't that many studio sessions like we're used to. Like, I mean, you go back to, the Rumors book, you go back to the Belladonna book, you go back Wild Heart, there is session after session after session of studio photos, and really just, we start kind of petering out on that. With Crystal Visions, which is 2008, I want to say, we get some, but it's the flashback stuff. It's, there's not too much current stuff. And, the fact that this was a current photo session for a magazine just really made it special and kind of stand out. And really the standout, the winner of it is these two photos here, which I thought I did kind of a pretty little garden inspired job with them. But I mean, I could go for days with this with this session. I mean, look at that outfit she's wearing. I mean, good grief. This is at her home, I believe. And it's stunning. It's just so beautiful. The home, and she just, it's so Stevie land in every way. It's what she's wearing. It's the vibe of her home, the vibe that the two things give, the greenery, the garden type thing behind with all these roses and flowers. It's a really beautiful shoot. So obviously it is a duplicate of something that I have. And normally I would put this in my, pile of duplicates to, share or get rid of or what have you. But this one, I really wanted to have this. The only picture I'm missing, because all of these were on one page on their own, and this one is that on the back of this one, there's the photo of her in the black velvet jacket that I believe she wears during Beauty and the Beast. And she's kind of standing, like this with like a hand on her table and kind of like looking off into her living room. It was a really pretty one, but I really wanted this companion photo to go with this one. So again, this article is 2005. So the complete article is in with my magazines if you want to go back and look at that video. I don't read the articles or anything like that. They're visual. You can see them in the video. You could probably pause well enough to read them, but I don't know. I've always wanted to go back and kind of scan those into something for people. There is another website that I brought up that a friend of mine is working on. And if I don't do anything like that, which I probably won't because I forget stuff, but I'd really like to contribute the scans to his site because he's really trying to do a thorough, kind of like a vault of Stevie articles, demos, pictures, the whole 9 yards. And so it'd be something really cool to contribute to that. So it is something that'd be accessible and interactable other than videos like this. So that was the beginning. So that was 2005, the first part. The second part, I think that this magazine came out in Nevada when I was at the Nevada show. It says that the magazine is available in Alaska, Arizona, California, Hawaii, Idaho, Montana, Nevada. That's why I think that. Oregon, Washington, Jerusalem, and Tel Aviv. Okay. And I think so just because, but it's not the right date though. I don't think July. Oh, no, it would have been July to have been at those concerts. I want to say I picked this up in Reno. And I kind of wish I'd picked up another one. And I don't know that, honestly, I cannot recollect if I picked it up there or if I purchased it on eBay. I really can't. But what was really nice about this is that there's this page, this one, and then I think you guys saw this prior. I had pulled this out for the dates that were here, and that kind of helped me recall as well what all I had gone to in June and July. Well, I guess this mostly just shows July dates. But then also in the article, it had this picture of Stevie's drawing, which is another video I really want to get working on. I'd really like to do a whole video of Stevie's artwork. Actually, all of Fleetwood Mac's artwork, Christine's artwork, Mick's artwork, Stevie's, Lindsay's. But easily a video could be dedicated to each artist, to, Christine, to Stevie, to, Stevie obviously being the most. But Lindsay and Christine both have quite a bit under their belt. And then you could also do, meaning me, could also do a video on Mick's art as far as his photography. He painted, drawn, but then he does photography, and I have some of all that stuff. So that'd be kind of cool. This is one of Stevie's really pretty pieces called Firebird, and it's just really cool that this picture was in this magazine. So there's that. This was some leftover stuff. Now this is so funny. I have no idea where these two 8x10s are from. Part of me thinks that they're mine, but I don't know. To be perfectly frank, I don't know. And then here I was talking about Stevie doing the shows in July, and then I thought she went forward and did some Don Henley and Stevie tours, touring with Don Henley, I should say. And sure enough, she did. And I have passes from those, things that I have purchased online, though I did not attend any of those shows. So the first one we're going to show you is this one right here. And then I also had an ad for it, for one of the shows of her and Don Henley. See, it was funny because she was still calling it the Gold Dust Tour, although I guess they weren't calling it the Two Voices Tour until later, until she went back out on the road with him. But anyway, this picture, it does kind of look like one of mine. It actually looks like one of mine from a much later date, and it could be. I haven't been able to match it up, though. And then this was just a really cute one I found on the internet. So this one is a right-click save kind of thing, but I just like how cute she looks. Also 2005. The reason I think that this one is mine is because it was with this one, and you can see it's a really cool shadow. I love that you can see her reflection back here, and you can kind of see her face. It's a bad, again, another bad print job, which again indicates to me that it could be my work. You can kind of see, why does it look all dusty? Is it dusty? I just put this together. Let's see here. Nope, that's just how the picture looks. You can see her face a little bit more. That is so funny. It looks so dusty, but you see it won't budge. That's super weird. Who cares? Then this is really cool. This was a photo given to me, is a picture of the passes, which is so funny because I had just mentioned this pass when we talked about it here. And then if you saw in this prior one here, this pass right here, it's here, but it doesn't show this whole thing. It's missing a little bit on the side. On this side, it showed like name, date. Like if you saw in that one from Concord, it showed like which venue this got stuck up in the back room at, or in the elevators or whatever. But usually they'll show all the passes, or they will say like what colors and such. And this one does not state anything about there being like, for example, green, possibly because whatever date this was, it was purple only. But as you can see, they did have a green one. The same thing here. But see, this is clearly well, no, that was June. So it could have been June was green, July was purple, and maybe August was another color. I'm not sure. Because again, the paper that it was on, it did not have a date written to it. But I know that this is kind of for me getting on to the end of the year, which again, you'll see in a minute. After Stevie did all this work, like I said, she went back on tour with Don Henley, did some dates. And then in November, she went to the UK, to Sydney, to Australia area. I think she did some dates. But then Stevie was also really involved in getting a horse. And this is Stevie Nicks', I don't understand anything about horse racing or anything like that. But Stevie Nicks purchased a horse, or went in with some other people getting a horse. And this is a little context about it here. And then like in the betting, or just information about horses that will be raced later. This is the little piece there. And then this thing here that you probably couldn't see because it is pretty small. It is Rodney Miller with Stevie Nicks, and this is from the Melbourne Age newspaper, November 6, 2005. Fleetwood Mac singer Stevie Nicks was delighted to back the winner of her namesake race on Emirates Stakes Day at the weekend. Okay. And connections of the favorite Zipping, which won the Stevie Nicks plate on the final day of the Melbourne Cup Carnival in Flemington, weren't whining as they hit celebrity pay dirt. None of this makes sense, but I'm reading it accurately. Assistant trainer Rodney Miller got his Nicks fix with a kiss from the rock legend, while jockey Nick Ryan had to be content with a peck on the cheek. Nicks plays the Sydney Entertainment Centre on February 25th. So it looks like Stevie then actually, you're going to see in a second, she came back to the States in November. And so she must have gone back to Sydney in February. So maybe she didn't play anything in between. Maybe it's just a little vacation for her. But so here's who helped train the horse. And then this is the jockey of the horse. But it's just a really cool little piece of Stevie's like side going on. It's like, of course she's doing it as a celebrity, but she's also doing it as an investment. I'm sure of it. And maybe interest or, whatever. So these are the little, my friend, whoever sent these to me, and I'm so sorry if you're out there and I've forgotten. I got a lot of clippings from Australia. Again, could have been bought, but I know some people used to send me stuff. And all these little tags were like pinned to each piece out of what paper they went through. I don't remember, but they're out of one of the two of these. And then this one, I'm not sure about the year, but it's just another little piece that I've had. And it's just a really cool fan with Mick Fleetwood, having met Mick Fleetwood. I can already tell you, this doesn't happen until 2007 because this looks like Costco. I was so dumb to do this. And I've got plenty of conversation, but that's okay because I got plenty of pictures of Mick Fleetwood during his Costco tour. So this is actually 2007. This is a little premature here, but it's okay. It's a little space filler. And then this space here that you think is missing was yet another pass that I had received of Don Henley and Stevie Nicks. And this is a really cool, what do they call it? Hologram, I guess, kind of, because it just has kind of the shiny. And this belonged to somebody named Kathy Collins. This was definitely off eBay. So I hope I don't get that person in trouble. But yeah, this was purchased off eBay. And it's going to go right here. I just didn't want to stick it down until I was able to show you the front and the back of it. That was a little piece there. Now, like I said, Stevie came back to the States for a really funny story. All this stuff is slipping around. Hold on one second here. Rearrange this. There we go. My little table where I set things down was, anyway. And this was a really cool story, though maybe a lot of people don't know. Plenty of you do, but plenty of you don't. There was a odd Stevie, Don Henley, and a ton of other artists went to a young lady's bar mitzvah, but not for free. This was out of a magazine. I'm going to read it to you, and then I'm going to read this little quick piece here. Mazel tov. 50 Cent, Aerosmith, and Kenny G are paid untold amounts to play a bar mitzvah. One well-heeled father raised the bar on the bar mitzvah blowouts when he spent $10 million on a star-studded concert last November. Embattled defense contractor David H. Brooks, whose Long Island company, DHB Industries, makes bulletproof vests, some of which were recently deemed defective and unusable by the U.S. Army in Iraq, hired a cavalcade of entertainers to serenade his 13-year-old daughter, Elizabeth. Setting up shop at Manhattan's Rainbow Room were 50 Cent, Aerosmith, Tom Petty, Don Henley, Stevie Nicks, Ciara, and Kenny G. Mr. Brooks changed into a metal-studded pink leather outfit for the Aerosmith set, not kink shaming. Guests were given $1,000 gift bags stuffed with digital cameras and video iPods. How freaking swanky is that? Now, these pictures here were unloaded by a young lady, a friend of the daughter's, I believe, who posted these photos on Instagram, and they got taken down pretty quickly. So a lot of people haven't been able to see these. They aren't the greatest or anything like that. And these are copied and taken from the internet. And, usually I'm kind of ashamed of that. But this is such a rare and unusual opportunity that I have no shame. I don't care. This is really cute because she's reading her teleprompter here. But can you imagine having all these people at a freaking bar mitzvah? And what a total, you can tell who was there for the parents. You can tell who was there for the kids. That was really funny. So this took place November 27th, 2005. And a little bit more information that I found on the internet said, for seasoned showbiz veterans Steven Tyler and Joe Perry of Aerosmith, Middle-aged men, long past worrying over their perceived legitimacy, were offered $2 million appearance fee for a 45-minute performance at a private event in New York City. Must have been a true no-brainer. For Curtis James Jackson III, on the other hand, there were likely competing impulses. Jackson, better known as the rapper 50 Cent, had built his professional persona on the image of a street-hardened former criminal who was tough enough to survive being shot 9 times at point blank range in 2001. So there were legitimate concerns that his image might take a hit if word leaked out about the event in question. Ultimately, however, Mr. Jackson made his decision that the title of his multi-platinum 2003 album, Get Rich or Die Tryin', suggested he might. In exchange for a multi-million-dollar fee, 50 Cent took the stage at the New York City's famous Rainbow Room in the early morning hours of this day in 2005, joining Tyler and Perry as headline performers at the $10 million bar mitzvah of Long Island 13-year-old Elizabeth Brooks. So we'll stop there, but it just mentions, that Stevie and Don Henley were there and stuff. And then the closer is that the father who spent $10 million celebrating his daughter coming of age was a defense contractor. 2 years after the lavish event, Brooks was served with a 71-page federal indictment featuring charges of insider trading, tax evasion, and raiding his company's coffers for personal gain, including for the $10 million he used for his daughter's bar mitzvah. Eek. So that's just kind of a little funny, spot in history, I think, for Stevie Nicks. She didn't, and none of the people who were there gave a rat's ass. I mean, they were there doing it for the money. Fine by me. Hell, if I had a parent who had that much money, I'd be like, hook me up. All sorts of people I'd have come over. So that was kind of cool. Lastly, on December 1st, so not just, but a few days after this, Stevie Nicks and Mick Fleetwood made their way over to the Walter Reed Center in, I can't remember where now, not New York, somewhere on the East Coast though. And they had done a big kind of a meet and greet and autograph session for military and wounded soldiers and such. Now, I was talking to a dear friend of mine who I've known forever on the internet, and she is just she's golden at finding the dates and stuff of things. And we were both talking, and there's another time when Stevie and Mick, they actually visited a couple, like the Nameless Soldier, there's like a tomb and all sorts of stuff. I don't believe that it was this trip, but it was on this trip that Stevie Nicks says that she walked in a rock star and she left a soldier's mother, which is a very pivotal and beautiful moment for Stevie. It's just kind of an eye opener and an awareness. Stevie's always been kind of an awareness type of person, which is yet another, part of my love for her. She's, though we, myself included, just talk about celebrities being so outside the realm of, what us people like me talking do and having normal jobs and stuff like that. They're still human and they still come to the need of others and realize the importance of others and people's efforts, including soldiers, including no matter what your take is on politics. Let's just not even go there. This is just a generous thing. Stevie and Mick have visited hospitals and, for children, for soldiers, for many different things. And Stevie just really took to this. And it's important because no matter what your stance is, these are people still getting injured and, whatever. And, it still means something. So this was just a really pretty moment. These again also were pictures that I'm sure were just from the internet. I'm sure somebody right-clicked off of, one of those places you can buy pictures and sold them on eBay for like $10 for all these photos. I think there's like 12 or 13 of them at the most. So they're not the best color, or anything like that, but it's okay. They're really nice photos and I really enjoy them. I think I enjoy them the most because it's just something that they had done. It's just, kind of an important and, again, pivotal, personal, where Stevie is more, again, one of us, I think. Lastly, because this is going a little bit longer than I meant to, but again, we're kind of wrapping up 2007. A really good friend of mine, an awesome friend who is a friend of mine, mostly from another artist that I'm really into. He will send me stuff. He lives in Ohio. And he sent me this piece that came out of a newspaper, and it was about Lindsey Buckingham and Kristen, his wife, sold their Bel Air, California home for close to $21.5 million. Wow. This is in 2005, June 24th, 2005, so sometime around there. They had purchased the home in 1980 when a 1940 contemporary home stood on it. In 1999, the couple tore down the existing house and spent the next 3 years building a new home with Los Angeles architect Kevin Clark. The 10,000 square foot house with the wrought iron balconies and terracotta floors has 5 bedrooms and 8 bathrooms on 1.25 acres. The property also has a swimming pool and a recording room used by the 55-year-old Mr. Buckingham. So that was just kind of a really cool. He always sends me these great little postcards and such. And it was so funny because I'd always ask him, like, if Lindsay, Stevie, anybody was in his town, he's real nutty for the newspaper to please send me the reviews. And he says, typically you would ask for a Cleveland show report, which would have been published certain weeks prior. I just hope and pray that the small news item temporarily allays your disappointment. He's just really funny. He's a great friend, somebody I've known for many years. So that was a cool little piece. And then last, but very not least, no, I promise I'll stop. These were awful. That's kind of why I didn't make a page. But these 2 pictures here were really a neat moment with the friend that I speak of. We went to a place called The Joint in Los Angeles. And at The Joint, Waddy Wachtel and his band plays. So it's usually Waddy, Brett Tuggle, sometimes Jimmy Paxton would be there. I'm not 100% sure because I can't find the information of all who was there. I think the gentleman who showed up, who was a guest, but he plays oftentimes, and I just misplaced it, but I want to say it was Bernard something. Could be wrong. But this is a really neat, it's a little dive bar, a little hole in the wall. Actually, it's really cute, but it is kind of a dive bar considering. It's super dark inside, so with or without flash, it just didn't matter. There was not going to be a good picture. But it's just a really rare moment. And I found that he was just such a different person than he was on stage with Stevie. And that's neither good or bad. It's just he's a whole different performer. He's in his element with his friends, and they're just jamming. They're not there to, do anything special. They're not, in some big venue doing a big show. They're just there having fun. They did a lot of covers of all sorts of artists, a lot of Neil Young, Warren Zevon, things like that. And they just really play it by ear, but they're tight. They're tight as hell, even though they just throw out a song. I can't say that they, had a solid set list, but they would just throw stuff out, and you can see the gentleman. I'm so sorry. And I think that's, no, that's not Waddy. That might be Brett. That might be Brett with the guy. I think that's why I have it. But from the get-go, these pictures were not clear, not for lack of trying. These, yes, they're also printed out poorly, but like I said, from the get-go, and I think there's only like 5 total, but I think these might have been the 2 best. And as you can see, that's not saying much, but it's just kind of a neat, side thing to go to see something and see, again, these artists that are, that I look up to and I admire and appreciate because they've been working with Stevie and Lindsay and Fleetwood Mac as a whole for so many years, to just, again, kind of be in their own element and doing their own thing. And these guys were just freaking rocking. It was a really cool show. I want to say Waddy and gang did that from like 2001 to 2013 or so, thereabouts. And I really wish I'd gone again. I know some friends who would go frequently because they live in the LA area. Of course, the night we went, we had heard Stevie was going to be there, but that has never happened. I think Linda Ronstadt has shown up in those years, Adam Sandler, Neil Young, why can I not think of his name, from Rolling Stones, not Mick Jagger, but Keith Richards. A lot of people, a lot of really big celebs had shown up and just jammed with them for the night. But, they're all friends. Waddy and all those people are session players and have met so many people over the years. But Stevie never did. We were still told that she had, but I kind of went through Waddy's website and reconfirmed what I'd known, that Stevie had never shown up to one of those things. Would have been cool as hell, but she never did. We went there and we would have enjoyed it either way. We were hopeful, of course, but I mean, this is a small place. There's like, you walk in, it's straight back. There's like a whole row of like, those old, like, 50s and 60s kind of booth seats. And then I think you walk up the stage, and on the right, there might've been like a few tables and then the bar. That's it. That's it. It was pretty tiny in there. So, yeah, but it was just a really cool place to see those people. And so if anybody, big did show up, and I think that Keith Richards and Adam Sandler and all that kind of stuff would be pretty damn cool. In a small little place like that where you just don't expect it. Nobody advertises it in advance. Again, we had heard things from people who knew people, but, things like that happen. So anyway, that's it for 2005. I have a lot to come for 2006, where Stevie Nicks goes on tour with Tom Petty. She does her show again in Vegas. We have some Lindsey Buckingham stuff, and then it just keeps going through 2007, 2008. So come back and join me, and I think we'll start, putting these pages in, and we'll start with scrapbook number 18. Now, when I started, if you recall, I thought I had like 16 or something like that, and I'm up to 20 scrapbooks. So we'll start with number 18. So thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for letting me go on for this long, and we'll see you next time. Bye.